So Dave, why don't you explain to them why you're doing this?
Yes, so Dave didn't ask me to come here today. I wanted to come here because wanted to help people avoid the mistake I made, which is thinking I can do this stuff myself. And so you want me to take 10 minutes to tell the story on ProTec? So ProTec, I started the company in '96. In 2001, 5 years later, we were the 336th fastest growing company in the country, Inc. 500 company, and we were also the 27th fastest growing company in San Diego. And amazingly, we just this year became an Inc. 500, 5,000 company. Again, they changed the whole contest. We were like 2,800. But anyhow, when I started ProTec, we grew that fast. We hit that wall in 2001 because we grew so fast, and honestly, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. We had maybe 100 employees at that time, and so I started reading a whole bunch of books trying to figure out how to really run a company. And so from 2001 to 2014, we just stayed. We plateaued at 10 million a year. I couldn't figure out what the hell was I doing wrong that I couldn't get this company to grow, to get off the dime. And so I read a bunch of books. And so I was skiing in Mammoth, I was driving back, a friend was driving, and I was reading The Rockefeller Habits, which is by Vern Harnish, which is the guy that wrote Scaling Up, and you talked about Vern. And it was like an epiphany. And I emailed the guy, and he emailed me right back. I'm thinking, this guy's amazing, you know? And so what I did is a couple things. I started implementing a couple of the habits myself. One was the BHAG, and another was the core values. And then I also started going to the conferences. Did Dave tell you about the Gazelles conferences?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, but go ahead, you talk about it.
Yeah, so twice a year there's these Gazelle conferences. Gazelles meaning you're growing more than 15% a year. And there's 1,000 people there. You know, there's probably a couple 100 coaches and 900 guys like us trying to figure out how to grow our companies, right? And you have speakers and they send you books. Their big thing is leaders are readers. I mean, you know, Bill Gates, I think, reads 5 books a week, and it's true. I mean, you really gotta read to learn. But anyhow, so I was going to a couple conferences, and I implemented the BHAG. So here's what I learned, and I only learned it after hiring Dave, because you don't know what you don't know until you get lucky, right? And so our BHAG, I made it in 2014 and implemented it in 2015, and that I actually had a BHAG. That was the epiphany. I had a BHAG, and the BHAG was I wanted to grow from a $10 million company to a $50 million company in 10 years. How was I going to do that? Basically, I was going to grow 15% a year. So if you grow 15% a year for 5 years, you've doubled in size. So that's 10 million to 20 million, 20 million to 45 million or something like that. And so I implemented that BHAG, and sure enough, in 2015 we went from 10 million to 12 million 5. 2016 we went to 17 million. Now last year we did 25 million and 25 million 400,000. This year we're going to do 28 million. So I implemented the BHAG. But what did I learn? I learned that I screwed it up, and I didn't realize it until I had a coach who was able to explain it to me. So my BHAG being 50 million bucks, I wanted to put it on the wall for everybody to see, right? This is our BHAG, 50 million bucks. But for some reason, I couldn't do it. It just didn't make sense for me to put it on the wall, and I kept asking my executive team, hey guys, shouldn't we put this on the wall? And nobody really felt excited about it. Well, come to find out, Dave explained this to me, 50 million bucks, how exciting is that for your employees? They're gonna make you 50 million bucks. How are they gonna rally around that? How are they gonna invest their lives and their time around a BHAG like that? It's a bullshit BHAG. It was total bullshit BHAG. But I didn't know that. Because I didn't have a coach.
Can I interrupt you just for a second?
Sure.
But his bullshit BHAG, how he said it, was giving him focus in a direction, so it wasn't bad. Even though it wasn't perfect, it still was working. That's why I want to make sure you guys hear that too.
It did work.
Yeah,
But it wasn't really the one we wanted. And then the other thing, the main thing I did, part of, so I was focused on these habits. This is what I wanted. And the other one, in addition to the BHAG, was I got a great executive team. That was fantastic. And that took me 5 years to get that executive team. I had been working on that for a long time. The other one, and this is the weird one, is the core values. Now, Dave talked a little bit about the core values. And so in 2014, 3 years before I even met Dave, or 2 years before I met Dave, we came up with these core values. But again, like the BHAG, was like, I couldn't remember them. They were so complicated. I think there were 5 of them, and I can't even remember them to this day. So I never wanted to promote them or communicate them within the company because I couldn't remember them myself. And sure enough, the first thing we did, I think the first coaching class we had with Dave, is he had us come up with simple, clear core values. But here's the interesting thing. We came up with them, we were okay with them, but then we had some problems with them, and we kept going to Dave. Dave, is this right? He said, no, just let it marinate. Let it marinate for a while, for 6 months, 8 months. And then sure enough, we let it marinate for 8 months, those core values that we came up with, the second set with Dave. And then he took us through this process. This is when I was really starting to get blown away by what this guy can do for you. Is that it was like a scientific process. He took us through creating these perfect core values. Actually, I think we might be missing one. And you might agree. And our core values is simple, and I can remember them. All in, learn and grow, and own it. And that's simple. And so I'd say maybe 50 of our 400 employees can remember those.
Well, but you're just starting still.
Well,
you haven't had them. You've only had them for about 6 months in the form they're in now.
Yep. So those are 2 examples of what I wanted to tell you today, which I wish there had been somebody like me 3-4 years ago to tell me this. And that is, there's no better way than to grow your company and actually do the things you can put in place to enable your company to grow than to get a coach. And I'm stubborn. I'm hard-headed. Not a know-it-all, but I'm just stubborn. I'm ACD is what it is. And I think I can do everything the best. And it just turned out I couldn't. I mean, it's not just those 2, the BHAG and the core values, that I learned that I had done incorrectly. It's a lot of this is complex.
So can I ask
stuff.
you a couple questions just to help them too? So what is your challenge with your people? What are the biggest challenge with people that you're finding?
Well, we can't find enough.
Okay.
So we hire 20, 30 employees a month, but we lose about 10.
Okay, so we can't find enough. What are their skills that you need?
Yeah, so we need maintenance technicians, construction guys, guys that can, like handymen who can do multiple trades.
Okay, and what have we done in the United States with these people?
They're all gone.
Yep, we got rid of them. So he's having trouble finding people like this. Matter of fact, he can't even come close to getting the people he needs right now.
Yeah.
Not even growing anymore. So they're trying to, what are you working on to try to get this thing fixed? What are some of the things you're doing?
Well, we're doing a lot of things. Right now we're advertising on Spanish language radio in Tijuana. A lot of guys that have those trades are coming up and working for somebody else. So we're trying to get those guys. We're doing different things in Vegas and LA.
But you're doing you're doing a lot more training.
A lot of training.
Right.
We have 65 or 70 managers, right, for the 400 employees. And I used to do our class every Wednesday, and various of us executives would teach this class. But now we have somebody, a professional, that comes in for a half-day class and actually implements a lot of the stuff that we, the exec, are learning. And that's critical, because here, can you imagine you're an executive, you've spent all this time learning this stuff, but you can't talk to your managers about what the hell it is, right? Because they don't know. You say BHAG and they go, oh, okay, whatever. And so they need to understand all this stuff too. So that's what we've been doing this past year, is rolling out this once a month, 4 hours a day to our managers. So now our managers understand what the hell we're doing and why we're doing it. Some of them still don't.
So
and it's really a problem, because they poison the well a little bit. So we try to take more time, babysit them, teach them what we're trying to do.
What's the biggest challenge you have with like meetings and things like that? How were your meetings going before comparative to now?
This was one of the biggest epiphanies I had, and that was that I didn't realize, again, this thing that you don't know what you don't know until you find out by luck. But I didn't realize that meetings should have a structure. I didn't realize that as a leader, this is my meeting, as these meetings were mine, I needed to actually go out and mine for conflict. Bring out the conflict. Somebody, has a bad face about something that's said. I say, Steve, what the hell is your problem? What is it that bothers you? What did you not like about what Barbara said? Right? So that's mining for conflict. And then being vulnerable, learning how to be vulnerable as a leader and as an executive team, and say, hey, I just F that up. I F up every day. Okay? And bring that vulnerability to your team, because what that does is it builds trust in your executive team, and then the executive team learns how to do that and brings that down to your management team. Does that make sense? But the meetings, I'm sorry, Dave, the meetings were so critical, because we didn't know how to do it. There's skill involved in doing meetings. And so what I'm saying is, every month, every Wednesday, we have an executive meeting, and it used to be just everything that was a problem. We just listed that was the agenda, all the problems. Now we realize that we extract all the strategic issues and we deal with those one meeting a month, because they are hard and they take more time. And then the other 3 meetings a month on Mondays, we deal with tactical issues. How do we do this? What do we do about all these trucks? How do we find more employees? All the tactical stuff. And then we also do what we never did before, because I thought it was kind of maybe a waste of time or whatever, and that was we do the retreats, and the retreats are all about strategy. And I still feel that we're not spending enough time. I used to feel like meetings were a waste of time, a pain in my ass, and I hated them. Everybody else hated them. And now I look forward to going to the meetings, because it works. The meetings work now. So the meetings were critical. And actually, Dave, there were some other successes. And I wrote them down. The meetings were one, the BHAG, core values, the huddles. So every morning now, the executive team, the marketing team, the sales team, the admin team, and the main division account managers and division managers huddle every morning, standing up 10 minutes. And the huddle is amazing. Does anybody here do huddles? Okay, so right, it's like night and day in terms of saving time. The other thing was the strategic planning I mentioned, and then hiring and people. What I've learned through Dave and Gazelle's is that there's a strategy, there's a skill that needs to go into hiring people that will be able to adopt your core values. We hire for humble, hungry, and smart. That's what we hire for mainly, and then we talk about some of our core values. We weave those core values into the hiring conversation. So the hiring is working now, although it's, you can't find multi-trade skill guys.
Well, what they're finding is they don't have the volume they had before, because they're finding the better fit candidates that believe in what they believe in, and so One of his leaders, actually one of his up and coming leaders, probably his number one guy, actually had a team of about 11 that reported to him. I think he has more employees than anybody else. He has about 75 of the employees directly report or indirectly report to him. His team was about 11. He got rid of 3 of his team members because they weren't living his core values and didn't replace any of them. He didn't need to. Because the time that those 3 were taking up amongst his whole team was sucking up a lot of the time. So these C players that we were talking about over here, they were sucking up a lot of the time. And Lee said, when he got rid of these people, I didn't need to replace them. Because we were able to pick up the loose end. The A players were able to pick it all up. Because the A players were too busy taking care of all the crap the C players weren't doing. So it's just causing them more problems.
But the bottom line is that I've got an executive team and a management team that's about halfway there, that I feel comfortable now growing the company from 30 million a year to probably 100 to $1 billion a year in 10 years. And you may not have heard of ProTec Building Services, but you probably will in the next 10 years, because I have no doubt in my mind that we'll be able to get to at least 100 million, if not a lot more. Because it's scalable. Nobody else does what we do. And that's what your question about best and thing. Yeah, we're the best because we're the only one that's doing what we're doing. So my concern now is other companies look at us, because now we're on the radar of a lot of big investment companies.
What is it you do again? I'm just kidding.
We sell maintenance programs to HOAs.
I love
and
that
so
guy.
we have about 1,000 of these maintenance programs with 377 community managers. That's our core business. But then we do construction and inspections, maintenance manuals for developers, and a lot of other stuff too. But all leads to that core business of the maintenance programs, which is recurring revenue. We have $1,050,000 a month that's constantly recurring, and that is growing because it's a program that works for our clients. Okay, and so we figure if we have 30 offices in 2030 and 11 years from now, we could be doing $1 billion a year.
And so what we're doing right now, just to give you a little more active role, so we're about 14, 15 months in, and we're at the point right now where we're re-looking at his business model and the way that services are even delivered, and how do we speed that up. And so we're going back through, and that's part of strategy, right? Because you're starting to, now that you have these fundamental things cleaned up and they're starting to work correctly, now I need to go a little bit deeper as what is the model, how does it work, how do we improve it, how do we make it more efficient. All these other things are going into that now. So overall, your executive team, have they been challenged by this process?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Have you?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
hard. I mean, I'll tell you right now, it's very hard. You know, I'm OCD. I want to be in control of everything, and you gotta let that go. For me to get out and start buying and leasing more offices, I gotta let the management go to the executive team. I have to do it. You know, because buying offices is hard. It takes a lot of time.
So, and again, he is involved in a lot of these decisions that he's just not involved in anymore. And this is leading to the company starting to flower and grow, because people are starting to run their own departments and really run them at a different level. So
Yeah, but it's complex, it's hard, and the lesson again I want you to take away today, that I want to give to you, is that you may think you can do this by yourself, grow a company fast, but you can't. It's best to have a coach help you. You know?
thank you for the sales pitch.
No, but that's. I thought I could do it by myself, and I couldn't.
No, I know.
And the BHAG
You were going
and the values were the perfect example of how screwed up I was.
And so what did you do? What are you doing with all your employees? Because I told them you're giving your company away right now.
Well, we've been an open book management company since I read Jack Stack's book 12 years ago, an open book management. So we share all the financials, and I've also given away 35% of the equity of the company. So I've got a lot of shareholders, a lot of optionees, and so we're all pulling in the same direction. We all want to grow to 100 million, $1 billion a year. So is that what you were getting at,
Yep.
Dave?
He has a question.
Why did you want to grow bigger than 10 million?
Excellent question, and I tell this to everybody that I give stock options to every year. I say, would you rather have 90% or 100% of a $10 million revenue company a year, or would you rather have 50% of a $100 million company? That's simple. Plus, it's fun growing a company. If you really believe in what you're selling and what you're providing to clients, it's fun to grow it. It's hard, but it's fun. Does that make sense?
Right. It's a different skill set running a $10 million company
Yeah, but
versus growing $100 million. You can't do it yourself.
Let me be a little more honest on that too. The reason I do it is because I read this article about a big general contractor that sold his company for $500 million. And then he went back and he gave almost all that money to his key people. And I thought, Jesus, that's stupid. Why don't you bring your key people in and give them part of the company so we're all pulling in the same direction early on? So that's primarily why I did that.
Any other questions for Nick? Like any challenge, anything you guys can think of?